Greetings, Old World Explorers. Before we get to Mobile, Alabama, I just wanted to make you aware of something that I discovered recently. So if I do a search for Tartaria, which seems to be one of the entry points for the Old World research, I don't think Tartaria is the entire story, but there's a part of this Old World map that includes Tartaria. But anyone just getting into this will do a search for Tartaria, and these will be the searches that come up. We got Mr. S here, who does some good research. Mind Unveiled doing some good research. But as you scroll down, what you'll find is a lot of new channels, like this Acoustic Empire, Forgotten Worlds of Sleep, Tartaria Uncovered, Tartarian Atlas and Tartaria Uncovered, doing a collaboration. So if we look a little closer at these channels, you'll find the Tartarian Atlas joined in October. And this is pretty good title, because
the photograph is
this is what you get.
Glance. A postcard 1980.
An AI voice.
Rise complete.
Let's take a look at a few others. Tartaria Uncovered. And they joined also October. Tartaria Central joined October 2025. Hidden Rabbit, September 2025. Acoustic Empire, October 2025. Old World Tartaria, September 2025. They all have a common theme, and it has to do with AI narration. Great visuals. Very polished, very AI generated, I think a lot of them are. Agaddon Pro joined in November 2025. And here's that Tartarian Atlas and Tartaria Uncovered doing a collaboration video.
It's on a single parchment leaf, photographed under museum glass.
So the common theme seems to be they're all AI narrated. I don't see any human touch on any of these. Now, I could be mistaken. If any of you channels take offense to what I'm saying, I would love to have you on the channel for our Old World conversation. I've been at this for a little while now. I enjoy having the conversation. But it is curious that they all pop up around the same time, and they seem to flood the feed for anyone who's just getting into the topic of Tartaria. So something to be aware of. Is there an attempt to drown out the researchers that have been doing this for a while and replace them with these new AI channels? Is it just a way of getting this information to more people? I think there's a positive in it as well. But these are all things to consider. And let's not forget about the people that have been doing this for quite some time that have provided a lot of the base layers for this research. But without further ado, let's get into Mobile, Alabama.
Who would have thought that Mobile, Alabama once boasted a Millionaire's Row, a street of lavish mansions that could once rival the most exclusive addresses in the world? Hi everyone, Ken here. Join us as we take a quick glimpse into this fascinating enclave of wealth and excess. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode of This House. Our story begins in 1699, when colonists arrived in what would become Alabama. Their top priority was to build a means of defense. They quickly set out to construct a wooden fort, and while it protected the residents from invasions, it could not guard them against nature. After severe flooding occurred, the fort was relocated, and in 1723, a more permanent star fort was constructed from stone and brick in present-day Mobile. By 1820, the settlement had flourished into a small city, and there was no longer a need for the fort's protection. So it was completely dismantled, and its bricks were used to lay out a cobblestone street, which would be named Government Street.
All right, I'll leave a link to that video He gets into the Millionaire's Row. There seems to be a Millionaire's Row wherever I look in my research. And we'll start with some geography to give you a sense of where we are. You can see Mobile down here off of the Gulf of America. We have hit New Orleans on this channel. We hit Birmingham. So a couple of the areas, but not a lot down in this region of the States. I think a lot of it has been erased. Let's check the population demographics. You can see in the modern day Mobile, about 200,000 people. Turning the clocks back to the turn of the 20th century, 38,000 people, not a whole lot. And not a ton of growth by what we're being told throughout that second half of the 19th century. So not a large city by any means, and you're going to see some age similar to what we saw in New Orleans. And if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know what we are doing here is questioning the official version of history, using what we're given, what are we handed down through time for visual evidence and the stories that go along with it. Here we have an old, what looks to be a bird's eye view map from 1824, it looks like. That's very, very early, but very well laid out even for that time period. And I think we're getting a misdirection here with the buildings that are being shown here. We're getting the multi-storied aspect. We're even seeing arches, being told there's a big theater, but they're drawn as if they're made of wood, as you can see here, which is so often the case. They have one here called the Fireproof Building, implying that this was the only one at the time, really, that was built out of other building materials other than wood, of course. But you'll see it's not really the case. Here's that map with the Star Fort on it. Interesting story how they say they dismantled the Star Fort and used it to pave the streets. And we'll just roll through some of the visual evidence, and you can of course be the judge what you think. Are we getting the true version of history? If you watch that video I linked, you'll find that even the gentleman narrating that says the history of Mobile is very spotty at best as a result of the Great Depression and what was lost during that time frame. So much has been lost, and then the distortions have seemed to grow down through time. This is the Athelstan Club. Apparently not the only one. You can see here 1875, very large structure, 3 stories. Remember, not a lot of people living there. This is here in the foreground is also the Athelstan Club. You can see with the very prominent stonework, perfect curb work here too as well. I always like to point that out in my videos. The infrastructure, the civic infrastructure was second to none at that early time period. This is the type of architecture that we're seeing. Of course, I guess that's supposed to be a weather vane, right? The Athelstan Club. The Barton Academy, this one goes back pretty far. Let's take a look at the plaque. We're told it's built in 2 years, 35 to 36. First public school in Alabama. Used as a hospital during the war. That Civil War narrative very prominent, especially as we peek into the American South. It still stands though. 1830s now, remember, reminding me a bit of the Hotel St. James in New Orleans that supposedly burnt down and was rebuilt miraculously. I'll insert an image here for you to see. That one shows up in one of my books on demolished buildings. So many buildings that no longer stand that if they did, America would look quite different than it does today. Although there is still much that has been preserved, that has survived the test of time. So many of them have been converted now into government buildings and are inaccessible to a lot of the public. The Battle House, again a 2-year build time, so these were miraculously thrown up in very short periods of time. This one's destroyed by fire in 1905. Also something to look for in these photographs are the very steep curbs. Very, very deep, I should say. That is quite the drop if you were stepping off the street down into the muck. I wonder if a lot of the brickwork has been removed, and that's a reason for why they look so steep. I don't know, just speculating. You can see the tram lines. Tram lines prominent in pretty much every location I have looked at so far. Not just isolated to several locations as history would have us believe. until we look a little deeper. This is the rebuilt battle house, we're told. And a bit of a different look here in the upper reaches for this battle house. We'll go back here. Something's been changed. Rooftop gardens seem to pop up a lot in those early periods. And this is a look at the 1905 fire that took out the first battle house. The Bienville Hotel. Supposedly they announced the construction of this building in 1900 and they opened it in 1901. So from the time of announcing its build to opening this very prominent multi-storied structure, we're looking at no more than a year and a half. And of course they get rid of it less than 50 years later. That's a pretty serious building to throw up in such a short time span. And my videos really do feature that the time frame for construction not making any sense, even if we try to fit it into modern day standards with all the technology we have to expedite the process of construction. Still laughably not possible. And we're being told that these are all being done at a time when so much of that technology we have now in the modern day was either in its infancy or it didn't exist at all. And they had more rudimentary means at their disposal to construct these buildings. Yet they were able to pull off something, a level of precision that we really aren't even able to do in the modern day, and of course the beauty that goes along with it that has been lost to time. You can see the Bienville right next to that Athelstan Club I was showing you earlier. The Immaculate Conception Cathedral, going back into the 1830s to 1850, they say there was a delay there because in 1837 there was a big financial depression. So many depressions, recessions occurring throughout that 1900s as well. I think a lot of it is just a filler story. Severely damaged by a fire in 1954, and they're saying that it was repaired. Almost looking like it could be a government building. Here's the interior. 1830s to 50s, remember now in Mobile. We have a population, well really in 1830 we have 3,000 people living there. By 1850 we have 20,000 people living there. We're told. A nice looking spiral staircase in the middle of the church. And moving on from the cathedral to the Cawthon Hotel. Cawthon. Apologies if I don't get the pronunciations right. Of course, all you people in the regions can correct me if I'm wrong. Put that in the comments below. I enjoy the interaction. This one built again short time period, demolished in the 70s. Urban renewal rearing its ugly head in Mobile, much like many of the locations I look at here on this channel. My theory on urban renewal was a calculated process to erase much of the past, replace it with modern day brutalism. Here's just a look at some of the interior of the Cawthon Hotel. And you get a sense, again, you can see the statue work going on. We have a fountain inside the building. Again, early 1900s they're building this. The Vineyard Cafe. Very interesting. Beautiful looking structure too. You can see the detail on some of these postcards. 1 to 2 years. Of course, you never really know what's going on below here. The grapery, looking like the leaves are built into the architecture, and you can see the level of detail here on the walls. 1 to 2 years, folks. 1 to 2 years, sure. Central Presbyterian Church. A lot of churches, I like to throw them in there. It's like sprinkling a little salt and pepper on your meal. They seem to exist everywhere. This is the old City Hall, built 1855 to 57, was also designated as the market, city market. You can see how old it looks in this photograph. You've got the horse and buggy, so even at this time period, it's looking like it has been around for quite some time, probably damaged. Roads looking very weathered, but you still have the curb work, all a part of the infrastructure, the power poles. The Convent of the Visitation, built at around the same time, 1855. They're saying this took less than a year to build. Now, if I've got that timeline wrong, then the research that I'm doing online is getting it wrong as well. So it just tells you how murky these details are when you look into them. You can see the age of the stone here. This is an overhead view of the convent. quite a large structure to be throwing up in less than a year, but by the glory of God, they got it done, I suppose. The gate to the convent, they decided to go with stone, very large stones. And then the land around it looking very unkept as well. It's always curious, making me feel like we've got a reset going on here and a claiming of these structures. And then, of course, the need to provide some sort of backstory for future generations, which I think they're playing catch-up with all the time because we're digging into a lot of this stuff. The Cotton Exchange, built in 1886, and it burns to the ground 30 years later. And this is quite an incredible structure. I wish there were more visual evidence of this one. Reminding me a bit of the Cotton Exchange in New Orleans. Again, there's a lot of similarities since they're so regionally so close. That's really all I could find. There's a few postcards that exist, but all from the same angle and not really showing us much more. Couldn't find anything of the interior. One of my favorites, realm-wide really, this one shows up in one of my books as well, the old courthouse, built in 1889. Got a bit of a long-winded story as an excuse to get rid of the upper reaches. Sustained significant damage from a hurricane in 06 and 16, which removed all the statues and ornamentation from the top parts of the roof and towers, and then eventually gets demolished in the 50s. You can take a look at what we've got going on here. I think we've got some winged creatures, some griffin-type creatures. Very, very prominent. This is interesting as well on top of this dome. 1889, there's about 30,000 people living in Mobile, and they mustered up the energy to build this. They must have had some statue makers locally. Of course, massive stonework down below. Quite something. You can imagine why they had to get rid of that. And we got some street scenes for you. There it is again, the courthouse, and you can even see the adjacent buildings showing off some of the turrets and the tram lines. I'm not sure what line this is connecting to. This pole coming off of the tram here. But a very curious invention, the rail car. It seems to just pop up and all of a sudden it's everywhere across the realm. Again, the courthouse in the background. I think we're seeing the jail here in the foreground, although I could find no other evidence of that either. That's quite a jail, if that's the jail. Not sure. And there it is again, a nice look at that courthouse, certainly worthy of a second look. And again, you can see we've got griffins here as well as embedded in the pediment above the columns. And showing us some of the damage from the hurricanes and the courthouse in the background. Beauty looking structure. We'll keep moving forward though. We have the Crown Theater. We have some nice crisp street scenes of Mobile, which I really wanted to include here. You can see the wrought iron balconies, and I didn't find any designation for this structure here with the conical dome, the double conical dome. But just a taste of old Mobile. Dauphin Baptist Church, built 1909, destroyed by a fire in 1935. Another look at the streets here, and again, dirt streets, and you've got, again, very prominent looking, deep looking curbs. So I really wonder, have they removed what was once here to make it look a little bit more primitive? Just speculating, of course. Okay. And yeah, yet another look, and this is a nice one as well, showing you the size of the buildings for that early time period. We've got horse and buggies. We do have a few motor cars. So turn of the century starting to take hold, and just a sense of the type of architecture in this city of approximately 30 to 50,000 people. The Fidelia Club, built somewhere around 1900 and demolished in 1932. And this one may be showing us a better look at this ghost of a building from the past of Mobile, Alabama. And yet another conical dome over here in the corner. Let me move this over. You can see it here as well. Interesting looking structure. Moving on to the First Baptist Church, built in 1909. They were building them like government buildings, apparently. Hidden behind the trees. Many of the postcards showing the structure have it hiding behind the trees. Still stands. 1909 they threw this thing up, we're told. Quite an investment for the Baptist community in Mobile. Not to be outdone, the Government Street Presbyterian Church. This one going way back into 1837, taking only a year to build, with basements et al. Oh, the shovels must have been busy at the time. Looking like it's been whitewashed quite a bit and upkept somewhat. Still standing. Just a look at some of the interior finish of this Presbyterian church. The coffering on the ceiling is very difficult to achieve this type of finishing. And of course they have a pipe organ. So many of the old churches had pipe organs. The speculation being the pipe organ was a part of the old world, potentially part of a healing system that the old world employed, using cymatics and sound in conjunction with the bells and the cymatic windows and the pipe organs. These are pieces to a puzzle that are not completely fit together, but there's something there, I would suggest. This is a part of that Millionaire's Row street. You can see with all the wrought iron gates. A lot of work going on there, the balconies. The Gulf, Mobile, and Ohio Railroad Passenger Terminal. This one built in 1907. Very busy bees in that first decade of the 20th century. And I do believe this structure still stands. There it is in the modern day, and there's some interesting details on this. If we look a little closer, you can see some of the cherubs. There's some gargoyles coming off of here as well. I don't see it in this photograph. Oh, there we go. There's one. And just some of the detail with the acanthus leaves everywhere, all the telltale signs that there's much more to the story. The Windsor Hotel. Now I looked this up and I was told there was no Windsor Hotel, but this postcard is telling us there was a Windsor Hotel. And I'm assuming it's the same structure, except for we've got 4 columns here and 2 columns here. So a little confusing. Something's changed. Not sure. Nice street scene as well, though, worthy of inclusion. Getting a bit of there's that double conical dome I think we saw earlier. Also pyramidal dome. So a lot more to the story, and a lot has been lost, I would suggest. We have a sanitarium with the St. Joseph's Church in the background there, giving us a sense of a more prominent city than we're being told. Was this a reset? And were all these locations reset at different times? Was history rewritten? Or is history exactly as we have been told? Here we have a Jewish temple. I'm not going to attempt to say that. Stood for 50 years, we're told. Built in 1906. With the triple doorway, the cymatic windows, a couple domes on top. Why not? Easy to do at the time. Get rid of it a couple years later. The Lyric Theater. This one quite comical as well with the timeline. They announced plans to build it in February of 06, and it was opened in 1906. So from the planning stage to the actual opening of the theater. And some of these theaters do pop up in record time. It's ridiculous. This was a, I believe, 1,200 to 2,200 seat theater. I couldn't get an accurate estimate on how many seats, but that's quite large. Demolished in 1950. And just a sneak peek at some of the interior here. So, got the faces, cartouches, painted ceilings, nice crown molding on the ceiling to wall intersections. Built in several months. St. Francis Street Methodist Episcopal Church still stands. The Marine Hospital, going back to that early time period, 1830s, 10,000 people living there, no problem to throw up a couple columns. Must have had column specialists in Mobile, just like everywhere else. Still stands as well. The McGill Institute, again built at that early time period. At this time, there's about 20,000 people living there, we're told. Must have brought in a few more column specialists, but they did get rid of it mid-century again. So much gone. The McGill Institute. And there's a nice look at the very heavy columns out front, and then of course the brickwork looking very old. Pediments in behind there. No detail left unspared. They've even got the balcony built into the columns here. It's quite a junction to pull off here. Quite the expertise in building. 1859, we get the medical college. And again, demolished in and around that same time period. And there's the medical college once again. Nice looking buildings for mid-19th century, wouldn't you say? Again, with the basements as well, so the shovels were busy. And again, showing you the very deep curbs, and deep enough to sit on with your legs, for these children, with their legs straight down. Something has been removed, I would say, from these streets, when you compare that to the infrastructure and architecture. Government Street Methodist, looking like it could have been a theater. Instead, it's a Methodist church with this type of detailing. Let's take a closer look at that. Very prominent and interesting molding going on there as well. The Mobile Yacht Club. This one's interesting as well. It looks like it's got brickwork going down into water. Worthy of inclusion. And more of a taste of Mobile, looking like it's much of this is starting to get run down in the early 20th century. The post office stood for about 50 years, we're told. Pretty short lifespan for a post office, but no doubt they replaced it with something a lot nicer than this. I'm sure if you're familiar with my videos, you know what's coming. There's the replacement. Well, at least they kept the columns. Let's see, which one do you like better? Let me know in the comments below, before or after. This one also listed as post office, but doesn't look like, certainly not the same structure, so worthy of inclusion. Not sure what's going on there. Two buildings I didn't see elsewhere, so had to put them in here. There's that temple again, popping up. And we're closing in on the end of the file, but before we do, we've got the Spring Hill College. And this will date back quite early as well. You can see the fountain here in the foreground, the dome. Very large complex as well. No time frame for you on this one, but you can probably guess after the pattern has begun to emerge here. There's that St. Joseph's Church, built in 1 year in 1908. Sure, easy to do, I suppose. St. Vincent's Church, this one dating a little further back and taking them 3 years. The Van Antwerp building, built in 1 year in 1907, very busy again. We've seen 05, 06, 07, 08 show up here quite a bit. So in putting all these together, I'm hoping to get a sense of the narrative that emerges for the false start of these cities and towns that I show you. Look a little closer at the Van Antwerp building. Still stands, and there's a look at the type of finish that you're going to find on this. All of the detail. Take a look at the detail going up here, over the windows, looking very old. The windows in here, and then the upper reaches with the torches. Very, very elaborate cornice coming off of the roof line here, looking like it's been heavily decorated and painted to accent it, which is nice to see. Very difficult work to accomplish, though. Van Antwerp building. The Three Sisters building. Couldn't find a lot on this one. Anybody knows any more about the Three Sisters building? I do believe it is gone, but I couldn't really find much on it. So love to hear more if you know anything about this building here. And as I like to do with my videos, I typically end on a YMCA. This one built 1897 to 1899. Turkish baths, swimming pools, all the rest of it, of course. Thanks for joining me. This has been an old world exploration. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and comment. I believe we are in the process of remembering who we really are and casting off the shackles of illusion. Until next time.